Hey everyone, very quickly before today's interview, I just needed to say a couple of things. One, this is with Bill Lobley. You might know him as the voice of Stanley Poole, as well as Jeremiah Fink, so I do hope you enjoy it. And two, there's a part in the actual interview where I have to cut it due to an NDA, so I do apologize for that, but nonetheless, I hope you enjoy. So that being said, sit back, grab some popcorn, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Hello everyone, my name's Eric, and welcome back to a brand new video here on the TheBioshockHub. And today we actually have a new interview with Mr. Bill Lobley. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Eric. And
Th-
you?
I'm doing wonderful. Also, thank you for being here. It means a lot.
So happy to be here.
So, first off, would there be anything that you would like to talk about, or would you like to get into the questions that I sent over to you?
We can get into the questions. I mean, I think we had mentioned earlier, there's plenty I would love to talk about, but lately what they like to do is make you sign your NDA, and which is really like a written "Don't you dare."
Pretty much.
So, so it's like, oh boy, I have lots to tell you. But I'll keep you posted. In the next couple of months, I'll be able to say, Eric, remember the thing that I couldn't talk about? This is it. So right now, no.
Okay, I'll
If
try to
anything
keep
slips
it.
out, don't hold me to it. Do not call the authorities.
I'll try to keep it centered towards like Bioshock based things, but if there's anything we go off topic about, I'll make sure to keep
Oh, I
that
hope
okay.
so. I hope so.
Okay, so obviously fans are going to know you for Stanley Poole and Jeremiah Fink. So for those two characters in particular, did you have any inspirations or did you take any inspiration from anybody to play those
Um,
characters?
it's interesting. A lot of times you'll get, what's like the character breakdown, and with depending upon the video game, like Bioshock, Stanley Poole's Bioshock 2, you do what you can. You read up where you can about what's going on in Bioshock 1. But you know what? Maybe it's maybe it's not the same thing. Maybe it's not Rapture. Maybe it's a different time period. You know, so there's a lot of things that you look at to try and get a sense of what he is. It might be an occupation, like Stanley Poole's a reporter. You know, but they might give you some clues. Um, and then based on that, I mean, a lot with Stanley Poole, I got kind of felt the period. He seemed like more of a 40s guy to me for some reason than necessarily, what was it, 58 or 68?
I believe one
Right?
of those two, if like off the
Yeah,
top of
I
my
think it
head.
starts in 58, becomes 68, whatever it is. But it was his attitude. And then, if you're really lucky, they'll show you a picture or a rendering of what they think he's going to look like. So that can do it too. If he's a gigantic guy, who eats a lot of fried food, he's going to sound different than the skinny guy who looks like he hasn't had a donut in a month. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like eating beans. He's a vegan. Um, but so anybody in particular, Stanley Poole, no, it was really about his attitude. I think about his desperation, his size, and just like kind of that reporter. So a little about that kind of rapid fire guy talking like this, and maybe he's a little bit smaller, and he gets like this, and he's desperate, and suddenly you got a guy, you got a nervous guy who just wants to get the story. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to it. So I can't say it was anybody specific, but I was a film major, so eh, thinking about a period, you know, people sound different. The people in the 20s are those, mid-Atlantic, Say, folks, here we are talking to Eric on the Bioshock Hub for the first time. So you get that old Walter Winchell radio stuff,
Yeah.
and maybe that's a 20s guy. So I just got a feel from Stanley Poole about the era and his occupation. Believe me, he's not a 1968 reporter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not, Mike Wallace. Do you know what I mean? Um, so, yeah, for him, it was just really about occupation and demeanor. So no one specific. Um, Jeremiah Fink, my God, uh, he was so clearly an evil politician. Before there were really evil politicians, but so, but that was also driven by the period. What were we talking? Like, what was it supposed to be like 1893 mixed with
Like
some and
the
that?
early 1900s, yeah.
Yeah, like so that period, that big handlebar mustache, and then when you couple that with just how inherently evil he was, um, but still kind of slick. So yeah, there was no one really, and also a big businessman. Really, a megalomaniac. Um, so no one there, but just someone who would have one hand shaking one hand and his other hand to be in your pocket. How you doing, Eric, my boy? Good to see you. What's that over there? It's
And
like
I'm just looking at,
I've got his wallet. You know what I mean? It's like, have some vigor. I don't know, but yeah. So really nobody specific, but I think we were mentioned some of my background is in sketch comedy and improvisation,
Yes, sir.
and that's a lot of that is character based and creating a character. And listen, if you're doing a sketch comedy or an improv show, someone is going to be like, oh, can you do George Clooney? Can you do Joe Biden? Can you? And then it's some of it's imitation. You're doing a thing like it's like, oh, good. Oh, the guy does a great Trump. The guy does a great Clinton. And it's political, or a celebrity. You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
he does Chris Rock like nobody's business. Um, so there's that, and that's more of an imitation. But when it comes to like a character for a game, sometimes they'll flat out say he's a John Wayne type, and it's like, well, you kind of got to give him a take that sounds like John Wayne, you know. And
Yeah,
for those that
give
don't
them
know
what
who
they
John
want.
Wayne was, John Wayne was a very famous cowboy. but but yeah, so for Jeremiah Fink, it was again just driven by, you know, what you get from this guy based on what they give you. The more popular the game is, the less they can say, you know. But most times they have a pretty good sense of where he's coming from, and then you hope that what you're thinking, you know, could be him, winds up being him. That's the way it was, I think, for both of them.
And
But
out
yeah,
of
both.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I would say both of them were great characters. Fink had
Oh,
more
definitely.
to say,
Yeah, and
but
especially because he was more involved with the game too. Like Stanley
yeah,
Poole
yeah,
had his own like little section, whereas Fink literally lasted almost the entirety of the game.
yeah. But that was fun, and that of course is more fun for me when it's like, oh my god, it's like Fink has a lot of stuff. He's kind of an important guy in this thing.
Yeah.
You know, one of my agents said, Bill, this the Bioshock thing. I was like, yeah. He said, this is really good that you got this, and I'm like, oh, I'm very happy. And he said, no, this is really big. So somehow he knew that it was like a really, you know, highly hyped game. He was very excited. I'm like, I think it just sounds like fun. So, but yeah, but those are two good, really good characters. The writing was good too. So.
Okay, so for you, what was your experience working on both games?
Um, it was different because I it was for me it was like the two different games, and they were, even though they're related. But the first one, I didn't know a lot about. I mean, I had read about Bioshock. I was like, Bioshock 2. There was a Bioshock 1. First question is my agent, why didn't I read on Bioshock 1? So it's like,
It's like,
but
why
anyway,
didn't I get a role?
hey, wait a minute. It's like, oh, Bill, we didn't know. It's like, now you know. So Bioshock 2 was you know, it wasn't a lot. I think it might have been 1 or 2 days. It wasn't a ton of stuff, and that's the kind of thing where you just hear them talking to you on the phone. You're in a studio, and you ask them a question, and they can't tell you everything. Either they don't know. It'll be like, Adam. Yeah, let me check. You know, it's like, Adam. And you find out what it is. But that was, I mean, that was fun, and I think they liked what I was doing, and it was just fun to do. I just remember that as being as like, oh my God, this guy's great. You know, and then, because there's less to talk about with him, he appears in the game less. It seemed like there was more questions I had to ask. Well, what happened here? We haven't heard from him in a while. What's this? Well, what happened? And they'll lead you through it a little bit. So whoever I was working with there, I'm not sure who directed that one. Sometimes it's not always the game director. It might be someone just doing some of the voice direction. They were pretty helpful. For Infinite, that was a whole different thing because I work with Ken Levine. And here's the guy they would have to ask if he could answer a question. You know what I mean? It's like Eric wanted to know, uh, is the whole thing in the sky? Or, well, we don't know if we can answer that. Let's check with Ken. So if I ask Ken a question, oh, here's what it is. And he was the arbiter. So that was fun, and that was over several sessions. They bring you back, they add some things. I probably did some ancillary characters in there somewhere. To be like, can you do this? You a carnival barker? Can you do Can you do this thing? Uh, and yeah, I went back, and then the downloadable content was, after it was over, we did more. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is great. This is great, but a big fan of the genre, which you should be, because if they're done right, they're like movies
Oh yeah,
that
for sure.
that you get to be in. You know,
And obviously there's like a lot of different integral parts of like a video game and stuff like that. The characters, the creative directive process. It's exactly like a movie. It's just
yeah,
it's an
and
interactive movie.
it's not just one script. They've basically, if you know what a flow chart is, they have done a flow chart for the plot. And how many endings could BioShock 2 have had?
I think like
I think it might have.
six, if I'm not mistaken.
Six or eight. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
6 or
lot.
8 somewhere in there.
And then in terms of Infinite, I'm sure you're all running. I think basically to the same place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Same ending.
I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, although it's like, oh, I got to play this game again. But uh, yeah. So the scripting is unbelievable. We did Just Cause, and one of the directors said to me, he said, "This is a huge world. The world is huge, and it's meaning we can go in so many different directions. You can tip over a cow. If you walk by the field, you can tip the cow over, or kill the boss. So and I haven't encountered a boss cow yet, though. So that'd be a
You
weird
never know. It might be there
you
somewhere.
never know. Yeah, well, yeah, listen, write that down. But yeah, but that was, the idea that these things are so huge and so convoluted, yet really, the things that tie them together are so fragile. This is some expert scripting that will probably also make you a terrific screenwriter. So when someone says, okay, what if Dorothy doesn't go home? You know what I mean? It's like she is in Oz forever. It's like, oh, we got to write a whole new script for that. She doesn't go home.
That'd be
Come back to
interesting
Kansas.
too.
It's like Dorothy stays in Oz. So, another movie idea for you. But
I'll try my
but
best.
but I think video games are like that. A good one is like, I went in this direction, and I don't know where I'm going, but it's like someone has said, if he does that, if he shoots the guy, here's what happens to him. And it just makes it, you can play the game forever, if it's done the right way, or you can play it a lot. I'm
Yeah.
sure some people have exhausted all the possibilities.
There's a lot of replayability, which is always nice to have, especially if it's like a very good game. So can't complain there. If there's any other character in BioShock 2 or Infinite or even BioShock 1, if you went back and listened to that or played through that you could have played, who would it have been if you?
I think in BioShock 2, I like I like Sinclair for some reason.
A lot of people do.
And I don't I don't know why, but there was something about him, and you could probably say, strangely enough, that there was something Fink-like about him. Kind of a big, glad handling guy. I think the guy who did him did a little bit of a southern thing.
Yeah, he had a southern accent.
Good, So but I like that, but I like Stanley Poole so much. But it's the typical thing where it's like, well, wouldn't you want the bigger part? It's like, not really. I want the better part, and so I really like Stanley Poole. I guess I could have been like a little sister. I'm safe with Daddy.
That's creepy. It's creepy.
Yeah,
but that's awesome.
But this fucking, first of all, you think that's creepy? How about she sticks a needle and pulls red stuff out of your body and then says, "Daddy"? That was like one of the creepiest characters ever. Her eyes, that just freaked me out. I didn't get. I got. Sometimes you'll get the video game. They'll say, "Would you like a video game?" I was like, "Yeah," so I got that. I played BioShock 2 because somebody had it. But we got BioShock Infinite, and both my two boys. Well, they're not boys now; they're a little bit older, but they went nuts. They went nuts, and I think the older guy finished it like fast, like in a day and a half. He's like, "I'm done," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He goes, "No, no, I'm gonna play it again." So he wasn't crashing helicopters like in Grand Theft Auto, but he, he was he loved it. But yeah, so Sinclair I liked. If I could play someone else, and I don't know, I really liked Fink in Bioshock Infinite. Although Booker was pretty good. The guy, I can't think of the actor's name, but
Troy Baker.
Yeah, he did a really good job, and it made you, because you're the main guy, you're it, you know. So you're really, almost literally, when you're in that role, you're basically in people's heads, you know. You're covering their reaction of what's guiding them through the game, as opposed to Fink, whiskey, women, and dice, or whatever, So, so, what is he? The false shepherd?
Yeah.
No false shepherds around here. So yeah, so I was really happy with Fink, and I'm like, that's a role I think that I would have picked. Like, can I play that guy?
Is it like weird actually hearing yourself in the finished versions of the games, knowing what goes into it?
Well, the weird thing is when you don't specifically know what the context is. Either they can't tell you, or it's too busy. It's like, Bill, we got 4 hours, and it's like that sometimes. You have a specific time, and I never want to be the son of a bitch who's like, guys, we got 10 minutes left. Usually they'll say, Bill, we got 10 minutes left, and I will say, don't tell my agent, but you guys can have me for another half hour, another hour. This is too much fun. Because I think if you limit yourself time-wise, it's like, what are you doing? How much more great stuff? It's like, well, he got his heart pulled out. Can we do a thing where, they pull out his heart and his stomach when he dies? Had a couple things like that. Now, what if he got stabbed by a flaming sword and then they pulled his heart out? And you're doing all that stuff. If you have to leave at 4 o'clock, it's like, oh, I wish I could have died several more ways. So, but yeah, I really like that whole experience. And then when you hear it in the context, it's great. On top of that, there's sound effects. There's stuff going on. You get to see what they attempted to explain to you. Picture it's a big room. It's a lot of wooden furniture. There's a body in the corner that's hanging, and you're like, oh, that sounds creepy. And then you see the way it's rendered, and you're like, holy crap, this is spooky. And then you hear yourself, and there's some reverb, or he's coming from the corner on the left side, and it's like, well, it was creepy when we did it, but now it's scaring the crap out of me. So, but that's, that's, I would say it's movies, but, movies, you're there, but when you're doing the audio thing, and they're gonna fix it, motion capture is like that. If you do, like I did motion capture on a couple things, but I did a lot on Just Cause 3, and that is wild, because you're literally with guys in leotards and a lot of
like the tennis balls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
and the camera is pointed this way, but it's getting you somehow, because there's 30 cameras around this big sound stage, and they've got all angles, and it's okay. This box here, this table here, this chair here, that's a plane. This stick is your M1 rifle. Do you know what I mean? And then when you see it, suddenly I'm 6'4", and 280 pounds with a mustache, and you watch, and it's like, look, I know what I sounded like, and I know when I picked up the gun, but I had no idea I was this proficient with firearms. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, hearing yourself do stuff is great, because if you're doing it right, that's how it sounds. Like that's exactly how I figured it would be. But then they add stuff, and it can be really exciting, especially when you add the other dialogue.
Yeah, when you get all the other characters incorporated too.
You're in an argument or a fist fight, and you got hit, but you hear the swing and and then you're, you know, uh, it's great. Or you get punched in the stomach, and it's a whole different thing. Now he's in Bill. Now they punch him in the stomach, you know. So yeah, it's great to see it all assemble. That's the thing. It's not just the line by line stuff you do, and they're moving fast. Okay, good. Let's do that. Okay, next scene. Okay, let's go back. Now you're underwater, you know, or now you're with a grappling hook swinging through the sky, on the back of a missile, and then you see the missile and you're screaming. But yeah, it is really a lot of fun, and with BioShock Infinite especially, just seeing how now he's on a loudspeaker, and somehow he's creepier, than just the way it sounded necessarily in the booth. So
I imagine it's kind of like surreal in like some sort of way.
Yeah, but I also think that when you're doing it, it's got its own surreal thing. You know what I mean? It's like if, for instance, I think I did thinking the Bragg in Darkness. The Darkness. It was this guy was horrible. He was a horrible human being, and I think he might have been mobbed up, but he was bad. But he had to did a lot of cursing, really foul stuff, and he meets a really unpleasant end. But he had to die badly, and they really wanted him to die in a lot of pain, and to get to that point where you're not only an angry, mean guy, but you're gonna die badly, and then you're done, and you come out, and the engineers are like, "Oh, that's great, really cool, good seeing you. Want some water?" And you're like, "I just died. Can somebody hug me?" Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I need a hug,
Please.
So. Please love me. I know I'm. Moments ago I was detestable, and you're glad that I had my heart pulled out. But now I just need some love and affection, and maybe a bourbon. But yeah. So there's a surreal aspect to it. But if you're doing half decent work, and it could be fun. It could be fun stuff. Where you're laughing your ass off. And then you have to go get on a subway and face the cold, cruel world of a New York February morning. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I was just a cuddly, goofy teddy bear a little while ago. Now I'm cold.
Let me go warm up again.
Yes. Well, that's where the bourbon comes in, I guess.
Sometimes.
But yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
In moderation, Eric.
Moderation. That's key. When preparing for a role, what do you try to look for in a character? I know earlier you said like a certain time period. Is there anything?
Well, that can be something, and that's a lot of I guess however any person would base their character. He's just like my Uncle Steve, who's always tired. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you see somebody that's like Gordon is always tired, it's like my Uncle Steve. I'm gonna do my Uncle Steve. That's not always the case though. So yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with what I would look for in something that I would want to play with someone who the character has a little humanity, And I don't mean he won't step on a kitten. I mean humanity, both sides of it. So look at poor Stanley Poole. He's just a guy looking to get ahead. But then he gets desperate, and it gets sad. So you know what I mean? So is he conniving, or is he desperate? So there's things like that. With Jeremiah Fink, I mean, look how complicated he is.
A lot of layers to his character.
What happened to him in his life? I mean, obviously he has some intelligence, but then, but he's evil. What made him evil? But he's still able to glad handle people, So he's likable and electable, or he gets to be a leader. So somewhere there's some good in him, really, to be able to draw on that, I guess. So I guess what I look for it, you try and find out what I suppose with some people, what their humanity is. And I know that sounds like a broad topic, but people are complicated.
Yeah, definitely.
One-dimensional people are sometimes good. If a guy's like just an evil villain who's going to die, he's going to die. You know what I mean? And he should die. But isn't it more interesting if, like, at the last minute you realize maybe there's something in him? I find that's interesting. You can't always see the whole script though. They'll give you 2 or 3 scenes, and you're like, oof. You know, if you're lucky enough they'll give you the whole script. You can really see something. Which makes your choice, I guess, easier, or does it make it harder? I don't know. Because if the writing is good, well, I think if you read something, it's well written. You can tell in a page and a half if it's a well written script. It's like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. This is not this is not a skeleton. This is a fleshed out thing. So yeah. But listen, with BioShock, everything I read was like good.
Well thought out, not like a vague
know
character.
What they're doing.
Yeah.
These are not going to be like little splicers that get shot and scream. You know what I mean? These characters are well written out. Things like Booker, or I guess Elizabeth. All that stuff. When they're good, they're good, and then that whatever you're going to do is good. In terms of the character that you've chosen, it's like that's a well written character. It's going to be meaty. It's like if it's a funny script. It's like, you want to do that? It's like, yes. Or else you read it and say, this is supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm 4 pages in. It seems pretty bland, But if you see it, you get it, and maybe even you talk to the person. They say, no, Bill, it doesn't seem like it's funny, But they're all Spanish, termites. Oh.
It's like, now I get it.
They're stuck in a piece of wood in a restaurant. It's like, this is great. What a great movie. They want to escape. They're good people, but they're termites. They can't leave the wood. Do you see how this is, it progresses?
Yeah.
Why would you leave the wood? Or the hood? So,
the wood
hood. So, the wood hood. So, there's a lot to look for. Sometimes it's not there. It's like, is that all you're giving me? He's an ex-football player. It's like, oh.
It's like, you can't give me a little bit more to work with, it's just like to kind of.
Was he a good football player? Character. Was he good? Well, we don't know. It doesn't matter. Just a football player. It's like, that's the problem. When they can't answer the question, it's like, Bill, it's a football player. It's like, well, that's not very good scripting.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's like they didn't think about
we need an athlete. How about football? Everybody likes football. And then you got a football player. So maybe a really short answer, Eric, is good scripting.
That's a good one, definitely. Rather than have a vague character, at least you get a fleshed out one. So.
Yeah. It's like, how's the script? And like I said, you don't always get to see it. It's like, uh-oh. Hope it's good.
Hope so. Fingers crossed.
Good title page. Title page very well typed. It's everything centered. But I don't know what's going on. Great title.
And then the last one that I have, we can probably dive into more topics after this, but whether it's in a video game or on screen, who, character-wise, did you have the most fun and enjoyable experience playing?
Oh, my God. A lot. I think it's rare I don't have fun. Sparks from C-Lab. We had mentioned, you and I spoke a little bit about that earlier, but those scripts, they would hand us the scripts for those, and like I mentioned, they say funny on the page. You're sitting there, just sitting on a couch reading it, and you're laughing your ass off, and then you do it, and then the directors, I think I said it was Adam Reed and Matt Thompson. I think they're doing Archer now. Is that right?
Maybe.
Frisky Dingo, I don't know, but they would say, okay. Now let's goof around with it a little bit. So that shows a lot of confidence for like a writer or a director who like is in control of the project. Doesn't say, Bill, it's not but when you get there, it's however when you get there. Like, but I think he would say but. Let's stick to it though. And that happens more in advertising, but in commercials. But when they say let it go, just what do you guys want to do? Really, really fun. So Sparks was like that all the time. The scripts were funny.
And for those that don't know, it was a character on a show on Adult Swim.
C-Lab.
Yep.
2021. Look it up. You can get episodes. They're really funny. Buy the DVD. I won't get a dime, but because it was Cartoon Network. But very very funny shows that hold up. Both my sons are like, oh my God, C-Lab, and that's probably the one most people say. Oh my God, C-Lab! You were in C-Lab. I'm like, it was a little while ago, but it holds up and it's very very funny. It's very edgy now as you get into more in the PC culture. Uh, Things are like, could you get away with stoning an interracial couple, even though that was evil in Bioshock? Clearly an evil thing. I really don't know that some of the things that Fink said would wash right now.
Yeah, same thing
Even
with
though,
Comstock.
yeah, and I firmly believe you need to have that stuff because if I can't show you what evil is, you know, you need to recognize it, and that then you're back to scripting. It's like you have got to show me what evil is in video games, and then you hope good triumphs. But so but some of the stuff that was going on, I was looking at some of the the scenes, and I'm like, oh my God, never. They wouldn't do it now. It'd take a lot of guts and some really couple of good lawyers and some really good explanation. But it was foul. Too bad, but it did make a point. Speaking of inappropriate, I did something for Grand Theft Audio.
Grand Theft Audio.
It sounds good. We do that. It sounds like a studio. Studio name Grand Theft Audio. It was in Grand Theft Auto. If you're killing the crack people in the crack house and you kill everybody, and you turn the TV on, you could watch some of the little broadcast television that they had, and one of the shows was Republican Space Rangers. So GTA people would know about it, and they were just people who in a spaceship that was phallic, and they would they were just rednecks who just drove around killing aliens. Get it? So so they would just drive around the universe, and they were complete dolts, the three of them. And so that was intentionally foul and inappropriate to make the point, and really, really funny. So that was just fun to do because they were like, they pulled out all the stops because it was supposed to be wildly inappropriate and politically incorrect, because they were complete they were complete morons, and they embraced it. So that was a fun role to play. Bragg in the Darkness was great. He was just completely foul. I'm getting the feeling that you think I only like the foul people.
If you do, that's okay.
I know but listen, it's
the
fun.
best.
It's I guess it's the yin and the yang. I did Sheldon in Just Cause 3 was fun, but again, that was motion capture, and I got to play again as a guy who stands 5'11" and about 160. Sheldon was 6'5" if he was an inch, and 280 pounds with a cowboy hat and a 6-shooter and all balls. And I got to play a thing like that, and that was fun. And then got to do motion capture with it, So that's while you're doing it. Talk about freaky. You're in a skin-tight leotard, and you dye it so you think you look good. You got a camera on the front of your face so you look like a duck, and lots of white balls all over you. Look like mothballs. And then you look on the screen where they're shooting it, and you're the strapping cowboy. It's like, this is awesome. I'm not a cowboy, and I just hijacked the plane. Then I'm taking it, and I'm gonna defeat the evil tyrant. And then you look back, and it's like, oh, it's me, and I'm in my seat. So that was just a great experience. And then I did one of the things I did that was really, really fun, which you might not have seen, but it is on YouTube. It was for Fallout 76, and they had done a whole thing about, Tales from the West Virginia Hills, done as like a 1930s radio drama. So I got to do that and play, I don't know, 8 or 10 different characters in it.
That's pretty cool.
And that was back to that, like, join us now for Tales from the West Virginia Hills. What you know, what you don't know. Like that, one of those old time radio stuff. Of course, I had the track, like the static in the background. And then we got to play all these creatures that were, like born of the Fallout 76, that over. And it was, that was really, really fun. And then I did a scene with Jennifer Hudson in real life as a philandering senator. Jennifer Hudson.
I mean, hey.
Yeah, she was like, it's like, would you like to work with Jennifer Hudson? I was like, wait, why are you even asking?
Where do I sign? Where do I sign?
And then she said, then we're talking, and she's like the sweetest person in the world, and she's so shy, and she's like, Bill, would you like to run lines? I'm like, would I like to run lines? So I want to go and run lines with her. And they say, well, she's just sitting, she's going over her lines. So I'm like, oh, good, because I'm supposed to be in with her. And, so her dressing room is, wherever she was. And I'm walking towards the dressing room, and then this wall of humanity is in front of me. Her bodyguard, I mean, Sheldon would have said, that's a big fella right there. He was huge. So I just looked up at him. I said, Jennifer said that and he just went like this. I said, no, but she said, and at this point she's on her phone, and I'm trying to get her thing, and he's like, everybody in the world is trying to get in to talk to Jennifer Hudson right now, and you're not going in. But he didn't have to say a word, turtleneck, I mean, gigantic. I'm like, well, he's doing his job. I think I know why he got the job. He's effective and intimidating at the same time. So, but that was a really fun experience to be, on camera stuff. I don't do obviously as much on camera stuff as voiceover stuff, but a really fun. That was for Funny or Die. It was very funny scene.
Now, is there anything that you would like to talk about or bring up?
I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about one of the things that I think people might appreciate, especially video game fans or even fans or fans of the people who help put them together, is how different things are because of the pandemic. I thought that was just something that struck me. I mean, I'm here in my studio, and in the past year and a half, spending a lot more time here because we don't go into the city to record that much. I was actually in last week for something, and they even asked me. They said, "Do you want to go in?" And I was like, "Of course I want to go in." Get in the car, drive to the city, go to a studio, see a human being, and get to work with people, even if it's just an engineer. The producer and everything, director were on Zoom, but there I was. So that's just been an interesting thing. And like, if you have a home studio, that's become more and more an important part of all this right now. I don't know that it's going away because people are like, this is convenient. Why would I leave? It's March 10th. It's freezing rain out. The George Washington Bridge is clogged up. It's going to be an hour and a half to get in. Or I can make a second cup of coffee and do it right from my studio. So I think generally people are going to say that's like, that's something that's going to be around.
Yeah, especially the convenience factor. It just seems like it's a lot more convenient to go upstairs, go in your studio, and just sit down and do the character.
And the technology has so improved. When I first did it, my agent said, Bill, it's just such an expense, and I think you're the kind of guy that wants to be with people. I'm like, she's right on all counts. But it didn't take, more than a year and a half for her to say, have you thought about the studio again? I'm like, no, you told me you told me that it wasn't for me. She goes, you should think about that. Well, then, then it happened. And, luckily I knew somebody who saved me $15,000. What they charge the guys that build these things. My friend and I said, if I do enough research, I think I can get this down. And with the right help from, people in studios who are really generous with their time and their expertise, you can get something really good going. I get compliments. It makes me feel good.
Well, yeah, of course.
I would show you, but there's all kinds of padding in here. It's crazy. These are real, but you have to. You can't just get I guess you can get a blanket, and put it over like a piece of wood, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
they want you to spend more money. So yeah, in terms of other stuff that I talk about, I mean, I don't know. I have hobbies. So in terms of Bill, the individual, I like my music. I play with my college band, and that's really fun. But we were talking before, that's performing, and if you're doing a cover, sometimes you want to sound, just like the guy from the Cars. Other times you want to do your own thing, So there's that too.
Would you like to tell them about the skits, the cooking skits? Because those are actually
my videos.
Really,
yeah,
really
I do.
good.
For some reason, we were pitching food shows because I'm kind of a foodie, and they would say things like, are you a chef? And I would say, well, no, I'm not. I got asked that enough times that I said, maybe I should get certified. So I did. And then, a few months after that, someone said, Bill, you know what they're looking for now? And I said, what? And they said, non-chefs. I'm like, oh, perfect. But anyway, so from that came this thing called News Meals, which is on YouTube. You can go to the website too, but the website will lead you to the YouTube, hopefully. And it's just basically, I would take a news event like the pandemic, and I would do like a food-based menu on that, or how to cook for someone you love during the pandemic, or how to save money, or sometimes they're real fast. They're just like gags, like corona prevention, and I pour a beer over my head with a mask on. So but yeah, so it's news meals, and it's news for your mouth, basically. So I've done like a lot of different topics,
Like the airline food. That one was
airline,
probably.
oh, you
that one
okay?
made me
You've
crack
checked.
up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm flattered that you look. But yeah, food for airlines, or how to deal with a presidential debate when that was the thing. The government shut down. All kind of, I did one recently. The most recent one I did for the pandemic was restaurants starting to come back, and how to make restaurant food at home. So you can watch that one and see what my solution is. Yeah, and trying to get more into like local TV stuff, so you can do food segments in the morning. So that's just something else that I do. And then of course everybody likes followers, so at B Lobley on Insta, or at Bill Lobley, BILLLOBLEY, on Twitter. Hit me up, follow me, ask me questions about about C-Lab.
And I'll make sure
I'll answer.
I'll make
or
sure
video games.
that I
I
like you.
really like to answer. Interaction with people who love the games, whether it's it's the BioShock series, or GTA, or Just Cause, or anything. It's always flattering. I did some cartoons for Nickelodeon. People ask me about those, and it's great, especially when you do stuff for kids. I've done some kids video games too, and those are wonderful. But like I often say, some of the video games I do are not for kids. They're really not for kids. So don't. Your kids should not be listening to Bragg in the Darkness, or Jeremiah Fink stoning people. No. So or cutting people up with a buzzsaw.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really hope and pray that we start doing things. I mean, one of the things I love doing is ADR, additional dialogue replacement for movies. And when the pandemic first hit, before you're in a room in a small soundstage with 10 or 12 other actors, and you're filling in the old dialogue, or someone says, I covered Russell Crowe in for Noah. If Russell Crowe is panting when he's running in Noah, there's a good chance that's me. Or maybe filling in some lines that he's shooting in Australia. He has to yell at his wife. Hello! But when you would do it, a lot of times you'd be in a room with 10 or 12 people. That's called group work. Like the industry term is group work for ADR or looping. And it stopped. Because guess what? You can't be in a room with 12 people.
Yeah.
But then the technology developed really quickly, where now you're doing it remotely. So on the Zoom screen, it's like the family Zoom. You've got 12 people, and people are doing the technology is good enough because of the wizards. You're doing it remotely. But what I miss is being with those people. They're talented, gregarious, fun people. And it's great being with them. Or, one of the Coen brothers walks into the room because he's going to direct you. David Simon walks into the room because he's going to direct you. You know what I mean? And it's great. It's like, oh my God, I'm working with Jim Jarmusch came in. He's in the room with me. He's giving me direction. You get that now, and it's on a screen.
Yeah,
But
it might not feel the
face-to-face
same.
stuff, no, I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just great, and it's a very much an intimate one-on-one thing. But yeah, you get your shots, get your shots, and get out there, and be healthy, everybody, mentally and physically. Kid, don't isolate yourself. That's like That's really, really a difficult thing. So if you can get out and keep the faith, I think everyone's going to be okay. I think we're rounding a corner. I'm hoping. So hoping. So.
So that does it from my end. How about you?
It's great. Yeah, this is it's a great topic, and you're basically centering in the Bioshock Hub on two really, really great experiences. Not just the game, because if you go through it, it's like this is the world that's created is unbelievable, and I wish Ken Levine was doing even more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Who knows?
Me too.
Who knows? So, but yeah, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
I love the stuff you did, especially that Ken Levine interview. If anybody hasn't seen or heard that, it's kind of good.
Thank you very much. That means a lot.
Yeah, and he has a cute dog. My dog is usually right at my feet, but he didn't come into the studio today. So.
Yeah, mine's sleeping right outside my door.
Yeah, our guy is great. He only barks when he hears the fire whistle outside, so he's really, really good. But it is piercing. When you have a little dog, he's not yappy. You can hear him. Like, yeah, you go, shut the dog off, turn him off. It's like you can't turn the dog off. He lives. So, but anyway, yeah. So this has been great fun. I really appreciate you being patient with me. You did a lot of legwork getting me here, talking to all my friends who tell me where I should be.
And it means a lot that you actually accepted the interview. So thank you very much for that.
No, definitely terrific.
So anyways, thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed, and I will be sure to link all of his appropriate social medias down in the description. And with that being said,
God bless you. God bless you.
Talk to you guys later.
All right.